All right. Hello. My name is Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance. And today on Live with Bottleneck, we're going to be helping you stop the bottleneck in your business with James Sinclair. So please don't go anywhere. We'll go ahead and get this thing kicked off in, you know what it is, 38 seconds. Well, hello there. It's Jamie J. I'm the CEO and founder of Bottleneck Distant Assistance. This is Live with Bottleneck, and we're here to help you stop the bottleneck in your business. And if you're anything like me, I'm still in beta. Hope you are too. That means you're always learning new things to get better. And today we're going to be talking to James Sinclair. So while we're in the green room, we might go a little sideways from today, but that's just part of it, part of having fun. But this beautiful graphic was already done, so I'm going to pop it up there anyways. We're going to be talking about why you need to invest in employees who leave your organization, which I actually think that would be a really interesting topic anyways. And James is the CEO of Enterprise Alumni. And why can James help you stop the bottleneck in your business? Well, let me tell you. James is a CEO and co-founder of Enterprise Alumni, the market-leading alumni and retiree engagement platform. Their software powers the corporate alumni networks of the world's largest companies, leveraging this vast, untapped pool of people for talent, sales, marketing, and community. He has a background in large enterprise innovation, having worked for companies including IBM, SAP, and EDS. Outside of his day job, he contributes to media on the future of work. Freaking fantastic. Large enterprise innovation and entrepreneurship. This is going to be a fun conversation. Without any further ado, please allow me to introduce you to Mr. James Sinclair. How are you, sir?
Good, Jamie. Where was the drum roll? I didn't hear it. I apologize.
Oh, dang. I missed that cue.
Well, I love the mug always in beta. I really believe that perpetual beta should be for your life in general. Just a good rule to go by.
Well, this is fantastic. I wanted to introduce the two of you, actually, both you and your buddy there. I'd love to hear the story on that one. It looks good. I mean, it's in the perfect spot. So kudos to your wife. So she doesn't have someone come here and shoot me.
Yeah. So Jamie, number one is I can't believe you name checked my wife, who is responsible for this fun bean sprout at the top of my hair. But you were the one that name checked her, not me. But yes, like all of us, COVID haircuts and missed a bit. But I feel like it's now socially acceptable. And what's amazing about it is it launches a fun conversation and it breaks the ice. Like it breaks the ice. You know, we're all remote. We're not seeing each other. So anything that can just create a giggle. And I feel like so many people seeing this are going to be like, oh, yeah, I have one of those.
Yeah, that's for me. It's like I saw a cartoon the other day, and it was, you have the Zoom room or the video, whatever it is, and all behind you, like for me, is a green screen. But if I took the green screen down and I look either to the right or left, it's complete chaos.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah, I saw that one too.
Well, let's jump in. Let's jump into the conversation and tell us a little bit of you and your background. And yeah, I think this is going to be a fun topic.
Yeah, let's start the mayhem. So my name's James Sinclair. As you lovely introduced me, I'm the CEO of Enterprise Alumni. What our company does, and I don't want to spend too much time talking about us as a company, I want to talk about the concept, is when you leave an organization, it's generally like, bye, and that's the end of it. Maybe some cupcakes, maybe you go out for some TGI Fridays drinks, but that's the end of the relationship. And for leaders and managers and business owners out there who are always recruiting, the best place to go to find new recruits, referrals, business development, sales is going to be people that know you, people that have worked for you. And so really that's what we try and focus on is, when you join a company, everyone high fives. We're so excited to have you. Here's the swag. Here's the bits. When you leave, why does it need to be a weirdly awful, awkward experience? Leaving's inevitable. It's not a bad thing. It just is.
So make all you can of the transition. I remember, and it looks like we may have, here's Jeff Smith. Lovely move, he says.
Is he talking about my friend on my head, or are you talking about alumni?
I think perhaps. I'm not sure. But I did the walk of shame. Believe it or not, I own a remote-based distributed workforce staffing agency now.
Yeah.
On my journey to where I am now in my previous life, I got fired from a staffing agency, and I did that little walk where you had your little box of things, and the firing occurred in the middle of the office in a glass room. So everybody was looking and they knew exactly what was happening. And I had to do that little thing where I walked to my desk and then pick up my box and then walk away. Shame. And I will tell you, to this day, I'm not a fan of that company. I don't agree with what they did. Obviously, it wasn't a good fit, right? But
you can be fired. Like, how you leave doesn't represent how you feel. You can work for a company and you can hate your manager. You can hate your job. You can see lack of growth. You can love your job, but not have the growth you want. You can love your job, but you want to move country or move city.
And I love my manager. I thought my manager was awesome.
So how you leave doesn't choose whether or not you like the company. And so if companies just look, leaving is inevitable for good or for bad. If it wasn't such an awful experience, you might still like the company. Look, you might not have liked the reason they terminated you. You might not have liked the financial distress they put on you, but you can still say as a whole, as a company, they were a good company. And so that's this concept of why wouldn't you just make leaving as positive as experience as you can. And, I heard something recently from one of our customers who said, when someone leaves us, we take credit. You're going to that job because someone felt we were a great place to teach you, to train you, to get you started for your next role. So you're leaving because of us, not in spite of us. So if anything, send us the gift box. And I was like, wow, what a way to think about it. But I think, no one's staying at companies 40 years anymore. We're not going to work at Ford and GE and GM, and we're going to go all the way from hire to retire. That's not happening. So if we know it's inevitable, let's start talking about it. Why is it this weird thing that no one wants to talk about, this exit process? So that's really what we focus on, is asking companies to pay attention, maintain a relationship, whatever that means. And without dragging on this story, one of the things we heard from one of our restaurant customers, even kind of during this pandemic period, is a lot of their staff are younger first jobbers. They come in, waiter, waitress, busboy, whatever those jobs are. So they're kind of America's first job. Most of the time, people leave that company by doing a no call, no show. And the way it was explained is he said, look, you go out drinking Friday night, you wake up late on Saturday, you've missed your shift. No one has taught you to phone your manager and say, I oofed up. I'm sorry. How can I make right on this? I'm sorry I'm late. I made irresponsible decisions. How do I make this right? So the user instead does what we all do at some point in our life, which is kind of ghost. Well, I'm just not going to answer the phone ever and pretend they don't exist. And the CHRO of this restaurant organization says, we can't do that. Because next week, his sister or her sister is going to have a birthday and be like, hey, let's go there. And this kid's going to be like, oh, I can't go there. I never answered the phone for my manager. So he said when someone is, exits badly from the organization, he can lose 40 to 60 customers because one person isn't willing to walk back into that establishment. So you suddenly realize how big and how powerful this conversation has to be.
Oh man. So, okay. Two things on this, two stories. One, I climbed poles for a cable company when I think I was 19, and I lasted about 6 months because it was freaking scary. You fall off a pole, you get taken all these creosote thing, and I did it out in the Santa Monica area, kind of by your neck of the woods there. And man, I could not stand that place. And one day they had me climb this pole that went out over this cliff, and I was up there. I said, that's it, heads or tails. If it's tails, I'm leaving. If it's heads, I'll stay. I'll go. I left. My boss called me. And he said, hey, man, just want to know what happened. I want, please come back. And I said, I can't climb poles anymore. He goes, well, that's what we do. Just come back and give it. Anyways, he talked me to coming back. And then I actually had a deeper conversation with him and said, you know what, this probably isn't the career for me. But for him doing that, I will always respect him for doing that. And then the other thing is too, when we hire people here, this may not be their dream job. My dream job is to be Jamie J's assistant. No, that's not their dream job. However, we build a community here. And I'll be even so bold as to say, I think it's a family.
Right.
I'm the first person. I had somebody that worked here and she was wonderful. She doesn't work here anymore. I would be the first person to write a letter of recommendation for her, because she had dreams of doing other things. And
Right.
she went off to do that. And I'll always be there for her. And I think since then, she's referred a couple people over to us, which has been wonderful. But we always tell people, hey, if this is your stepping stone, just give me a heads up that this is something that you want to do, or, give me some time so that we can make the adjustments that we need to. And I'll help you. I'll be your biggest fan to achieve. And it's really worked out well.
Of course, because you can still be bummed when your colleague left. You can still be bummed. Oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God, she was a rock star. Not angry. And there's a really different, she hasn't left you in the lurch. She hasn't been spiteful. She hasn't hurt your business. And therefore, it's your choice how you feel. And I think you're exactly right. One of the things we ask new employees in this organization as we're going through the interview process, or I ask specifically, is, hey, when you leave here, what type of job do you think you're going to have? And they are always like, what? And I'm like, okay, you're coming in here as a junior engineer. We're delighted to have you. We're amazing. When you leave here in 3 years, because in 3 years, you will be now at a medium, maybe even a high. You're going to be looking around. You will have finished some projects. Your resume will look great. Some recruiter is going to phone you and say, hey, are you looking? And you're going to say, well, I might explore, because why wouldn't you? And I promote that. And the last time I did it, she was like, number one, no one's ever asked me that. And I had to explain to her, if I know the type of role you want to move into, I can now spend the next 3 years trying to earn the privilege for you to stay. Look, and she actually turned around and said, look, when I leave, I think I want a head count. She said, so forgetting leaving, I think the next role that I want is actually to move away from the keyboards and actually manage the people a little bit more in the process. I was like, amazing. Look, in 3 years, I might not have that job available. We're not big enough. We just don't have it. She's not good enough, whatever the reason is. But at least I know what I can do over 3 years. So when she has that choice, she comes back to me, I'm going to be like, I know what job you're getting, and I've done everything to support her and go for it. And so leaving here is not a weird conversation. I talk about it all the time to all the people, because I really believe employing someone's a privilege, not a right. Oh, it's 100%. A privilege every day, and you have to earn it every day. And if you're not earning it, then you're losing it. And you can't be shocked when someone just walks up and gives you 2 weeks notice. Well, why should they give you more? You didn't give them more. A paycheck is not more. That's just the law and being a decent company. That's not good.
Right. And you know what I found too, after doing some more research on that, rate, salary, important, right?
Of course.
Not the most important, and it's been proven time and time again. And basically what happens is somebody will look to see what the role is, see if they're capable or if that's something they're interested in doing. Then the next thing is, well, why make enough?
Yeah.
And so many people put on that first thing, like, this company's so awesome to work for. And don't waste your time on that. Put what the role is, and then how much they're going to make. And then if they want to learn more, click there. Then you see them dive into what the culture is like and what the company is like. And do they have videos of people having fun, or what is it like there? Because that's the most important thing. In my opinion, plus I've seen it backed up in a lot of data, but I really feel that that's the most important thing, is establishing that good culture. And then you will establish that. The long person has been with us is coming up on 7 years.
Right.
That's amazing in this day and age.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you're right. The hierarchy of needs is different from different people in their career, but understanding what their hierarchy of needs is allows you to start making intelligent choices on behalf of your team versus individual choices of like, what's best for me, what's best for my company, And so, look, it was a change for us. I say all of this pretending that I've led this, halo-driven life. No, most of these have come from making poor judgments, poor calls, treating people perhaps a little bit shittier than I should at some point. I'm absolutely okay with that, because I think some of those moments when people left our company or something happened is kind of the trigger you need to realize, oh, I need to look in the mirror. This is, it can't all be them. At some point, some of it's got to be in here. And I think that's a real development that happens, and it's okay. And I think people need to be okay with it. And so that's why we started asking, and you can't just be like, hey, how can I make your life better? How you make people feel is just a fact. You make them feel good or you don't. You can't, lobbing in free lunch doesn't make them feel better. It just saves them $8 a day. And there's a real difference to that. And, we can't compete, and we don't pretend to want to compete with Google or Facebook for the engineers. We're looking for people who want the family. Exactly as you said, Jamie, people who want a community, they want a family, and they like this lifestyle. They like being part of a small company where they can go from idea to execution in like a week. and
Yeah.
there's no politics, and there's a lot of things that are very pro our company that allow us to compete in that. But I think you're 100% right. Community and understanding people's hierarchy of needs. And that's how I always look at it. What do I need to do to earn the privilege of employing every person in our organization? And again, if I don't, I can't be shocked when they give me 2 weeks notice as opposed to a month or 3 months.
Yeah. And yes, I agree with you agreeing. Okay, and if I can say that, because, one of the other things that we found too is giving people an opportunity to be okay with speaking up. And that I think is a full-on game changer. Our team, a different person leads the meeting each week. And then the programs that we come out with, I thought I had a really great onboarding process. And then Glenda, our director of business development, got a hold of it, literally cut the time in half. It's a lot more efficient now, but now she owns that. And she, and I love the fact that she owns that. And I support and I applaud her. I do everything because it's amazing. And when people start feeling that their thoughts matter and their voice matters and things like that, then chances are if somebody, wanting to go on to something else, will reduce. Yeah. But if it does, holy cow, it could be something. The girl I was talking about, right, that left, she wanted to play violin. So she went on to the Manila Symphony, right? Wow. So, and I think that's awesome. I think that's what it's about.
I want to be first in line to buy a ticket, and I agree with that. So, so I got a question for you about that. So you talked about Glenda, who changed your business process for onboarding, right? And were you just waiting for someone to take it from you and say, I've got it, and you could trust them? Or were you like, no, I've done it? Like, how did you separate? Like, part of leadership and part of being a great employer is being able, it's not just to delegate. It's not to separate your passion. It's also, I know for me, sometimes I'm just waiting for someone to walk in and be like, I got this, stand down. And sometimes you have to help people get there because they don't know they can stand up and say that, because they don't know they have that space. And you can have a safe space. You can hear them. You can have a great relationship. But if they don't have the confidence to say, I hear you, I see what you've done, I can make it better. Or even, it's awful, I need to change this because you're ruining my life because of your crappy process. Like, how did that even come up?
So this is a great question. And nobody's asked me this question before, so I appreciate you asking. I'm a huge systems and processes freak, almost to the point of anal when it comes to systems and processes, because I think it's so important if you're in a growth phase, like many of us are, in order to scale and be efficient as much as possible, in order so that my expectations are achieved, there has to be a system or a process or a step-by-step workflow to get the ball rolling. Every single person that comes on, I've done some kind of, I do one of my favorite sayings, thanks Scott Beebe, do something as if it's the last time you're ever going to do it, meaning document everything that you do, whether it's email, calendar management, whatever it is, even to more, more difficult things. I always try to put a process to it. And when someone comes on for that certain role and responsibilities, by the way, mind you, each of the team members on our team, they write their own job role and responsibilities after the first year, because every year we revisit that, because as they learn and tweak, things change, more responsibilities, different directions. But that being said, I always have a starting point for them. And one of the first things we work with is, this is what I have now. How can we make it better? Every single one is done like that, because what I find is you start off, someone's down here when they come on board anew. Right? Everybody thinks when you hire somebody, it's going to be pink elephants and lemonade. Well, it's not. They're down here and they have to get up to here. And that usually takes about 90 days just to kind of get the feel, right?
Yeah.
But your goal is to have them go up here. And my goal is, once they get a hold of my process, I want them to completely improve it, do what's better, because they're going to be focusing all their time on it, not me. And so Bottleneck was named because I was called the bottleneck of my own business. It was my baby. I was too much. I wanted to have my hands on everything. And it wasn't until I started doing that we finally saw the growth occurring and people kind of coming involved and taking responsibility for their actions. So that's my long-winded answer.
No, that's a great, so there was two summaries there. Number one is you can't scale by just adding more people to the problem. You have to scale with the process. And the second was you had to move from martial law to a democracy? Would that be a really rude, would that be an awful way of saying what you just told me? Because I would say that resonates. Yeah, totally resonates. And I think people don't realize that, you're so right. You can't scale by adding more people to the problem. It actually makes it worse. At some point, you're going to have to pull those band-aids off, and every person you've added is another, layer of crap that you're going to have to unpeel. So that's awesome. I love hearing that. And I think your approach of that user being able to have that view, when we talk about why you should take care of your past employees, it's because you take care of your current employees. Why would that change? If you cared about it and she was great for your company when she was with you, why would you suddenly change your perspective just because she's walking out the door? So the reason I like having this conversation and not talking about them leaving is because it's the same process. They're the same person. You're the same person. So either you've been faking it the entire time, or actually you're a good person, you treat people right, in which case when they leave, nothing changes. Maybe, they're just not on the company emails anymore. And so what we're asking people to think about is not create a new process or a different process. I mean, for you at Bottleneck, you're serving customers globally. You're helping remove that bottleneck through your service. So I'm also hearing that your internal values match your customer values, right? Treat your customers right, treat your customers good, because you can't be, you're either your authentic self or you're faking it. And it's okay to be either, but at some point faking becomes unscalable and unmanageable and gets exposed. And so it's really hard because we're the same. We're talking about people leaving a company, treat them amazing, treat them great. Can you imagine if someone left our company and we treated them awful? Like that would be the worst experience. Like either you do what you say you do on the tin or you're faking it. And it's just important to know which one it is.
Yeah. Well, it's the same way for a client too. If a client wants to leave, why? So we have contracts,
right?
And they have a minimum amount. And the reason why we have these minimum amounts is because we feel those are the times it really takes to invest in that person to make sure that you hire a good person for your team. And that's why we do it. But if we have someone that's just not having a good go of it and they're not getting it, I'm going to have a conversation with them, and I'm not going to lock them in, and I'm going to say, hey, it's okay. Because what I've seen happen with that, by the way, is people have actually come back after being mad at us saying, you know what, thank you. I saw, there was a disconnect, and maybe both of us were wrong. But that's one thing I tell everybody is I will never run from a situation, no matter how hard or challenging it is. I've got pretty thick skin. Well, at least a lot of blubber on the skin, but I've been there and I've done that. And I want to respect their wishes as much as ours, but I'm going to try and fight for them as long as I can. So leaving, even in a client relationship, is very similar to that of somebody that,
has to be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Has to be the same kind of.
Totally agree. It's funny. We have, when you're in software, and I'm sure you have this, people want like term for convenience. How can I terminate? What can I and I've always had the same thing. If our product does what it says on the tin and it does it well, and we treat our customers amazingly, the contract is really just a piece of paper to put in the filing cabinet to make the lawyers happy. And that's the end of it. And I think, there's so many similarities between, people like software is different to it's all the same. Treat people great. It all comes around every single time it comes around. And it doesn't have to be tomorrow. I think a lot of people start in their career very short-termist. Why should I? Why do I? And even if I use my wife's example again, she has taken a percentage of her paycheck since she first started working when she was 18 and put it in savings. So
good for her.
Just to be clear, I took my paycheck and spent 180% of it when I first started earning. I couldn't have spent it any quicker if I tried on shit I never needed and never wanted. I've got nothing to show for it. Are you kidding me? But now 30 years later, my wife's accounts are looking very strong. And it's not because she puts big money in there or she earns big money. It's because she's had that same cadence, but she had the longevity. She understood the long game. Whereas me, obviously, is like, oh my God, I need a new car. Oh my God, I need a flashy this. Oh my God, I've got to impress all the people I don't care about. And it took me a while to get out of that cycle and realize, no, I don't owe you anything. I don't know anyone. And my wife has always been a good educator on that because she's done it, not because she preaches it, but because I see all these decisions she made because she made them with the long term in mind. And I think as an employer, that's also important is how, and so we enacted a system here, which is people don't understand around wealth management. They feel you have to be wealthy to have a will. They feel like you have to be wealthy to take, advantage of tax credits or IRAs or 401ks. And it's just fundamentally not true. And so we're about to start a program actually starting next week where we've got these amazing financial advisors and they're coming in, they're just going to talk to us. And these are all just earners who just have questions. Hey, I own my house. Should I do this? What should I do? Like no one has a will, but why do I need one? And so I also think that's the second half of now being an employer, specifically now post-COVID era, which is what are the skills that you should be enabling your team to have that have got nothing to do with your company, but everything to do with people sleep at night? If you are more financially comfortable, you'll sleep better. If you know that in the event of you dying, your wife is taken care of, you're going to sleep better. And so we've started to look at these auxiliary things that, openly myself included, I'd never thought about. What do you mean wealth management? What do you mean 401k? What do you mean I need a will? I don't have enough money for a will. What are you going to have, my iPad and an orange juice? But actually, these are really important conversations. University for my kids. So that's what we've been exploring all I want is when an employee gets headhunted and the new company, Google, says, can you start in 2 weeks? I want that employee who is in a box by themselves to be like, I can't do that to my current employer. They've been amazing to me. They're good people. I want to give them the full month. And I want the person on the other side of the desk to be like, wow, that's how we want you to leave here. So that's, and I'm sorry I just rambled for 20 minutes, but that's my perspective on all.
Well, that really resonated with me. And we're having a lovely conversation and smiling a lot, but with regards to will, I actually created a video on this because last March I lost my mom. My mom did not have a will or anything. And it was really hard for me to figure all that stuff out. That very next week, I went and got a living will for myself because I didn't have one because I thought the same thing. What are they going to take? What can I do? But it's because of that. It fixes so many things. It's ridiculous. Just going through that exercise is amazing because it gets you thinking about a lot of things. And it actually changed my perspective on the direction that I wanted to live. So just doing something like that, I'm glad you brought that up. I think it's extremely important. Every once in a while for our meetings, we'll bring in somebody that will come in and talk to our team. And it really doesn't have anything to do with the process or whatever we have going on. It's to make everybody's life more interesting and just better.
Sleep better at night.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my role. Sleep better. Competencies are competencies. Teaching is teaching. What can you do to take one iota of stress away from you? Just one iota. There's this phrase in sales, which is kind of, how do you eat an elephant? And some people freak out. I can't eat an elephant. It's so big. It's impossible. And the actual way is one bite at a time. And that's how we think about everything here. Just take the first step, exactly as your mug says. We're in beta. We're just going to iterate one bite at a time. And I think it's our responsibility as employers to do that for people's lives as well, because no one's teaching them that. No one's teaching my daughter who's 16 financial management. No one's teaching my daughter to take 5% and put it into an account with compounding interest and stuff like that. But if they did, boy, when she hits 40, she's going to be laughing. She doesn't listen to me, so I can't teach her because obviously I'm wrong about everything.
I don't know. You haven't met me. I had a friend in the Army. He never went out with us. Never went out with us when we went out. And, the Army, we're 19, 20, 21, 22 years old. I mean, that's a fun time. You're off on your own for the first time. The Army's not much, but you're getting paid. You don't have to pay for where you're living. So basically the money you get is your food
spending money,
right? It's spending money, right? This guy was incredible. At the end of the 3 years, he had already owned his own house. He owned his own car, paid off. And I'm driving a Suzuki Samurai with payments.
Right.
And, it's amazing that little shift from maybe not spending $40 that night or $20 that night and just kind of keeping that. And
imagine if you went down and said, look, I'm not going to go as extreme as that fella because I'm a party animal and that's okay. But one night a week, I'm going to not do it. Just one. You would have 20% of a house. You know what I mean? You would have 20% of your car. And I think people forget that it's about increments. People look at their savings account if they're saving $100 a month and they look in 7 months and like, only $700. Cool. Wait 20 years.
Yeah.
And it's a really hard concept for me as well. I make no secret about it. When I got my first
instant
paycheck,
gratification.
I spent everything. I couldn't have spent it quicker. And I think that's where, as employers, and to the extent I need to apologize, Jimmy, for going completely off track on this whole conversation, why should you take care of people that leave your organization? Because they're important and they're a relationship. And that's the end of the story. Like, that's it. I shouldn't have to qualify and be like, well, maybe you can recruit. Maybe they'll refer business. Maybe they'll like your post on Facebook. Those are all auxiliary if they choose to. It starts with, am I a good employer? And if I'm a good employer, it is my obligation to support your entire career. Period. You can leave me, and in 10 years, you need a favor from me. You should be able to reach out. And if you can't, I failed you. Period.
Well, when I wanted to live my dream of having my own company, my very first client was the corporate America company that I worked for when I left, because I had made that open and I was transparent. I said, this is what I really want to do. This is a really cool thing. Do you guys think you could use this? Yes.
Right.
I'm going to leave and start my own company. Can you guys support me? Yes. It was fantastic.
Amazing. Sometimes that's all you need is a high five. And so that's, you know, if we were to go all the way back to why should you treat people, just be a good human. And being a good human is difficult. It is challenging. It takes time. You know, I have to do performance reviews. I don't love them. There's a lot of things that I don't love, but that's the obligation you have as being an employer, to invest in the career of your employees. And it's again, even if they're a gateway, even if they're working here on a gateway to somewhere else, because they will never forget. You just have no idea where people will be. And I think people don't understand that your network is your net worth, because they're like, this is just a paycheck. You have no idea if the person sitting next to you is going to have the next $1 billion idea and actually execute. I'm willing to hedge my bets and say that someone in my network I'm going to be valuable to them and they're going to be valuable to me. And I have no obligations. I expect nothing back. And that mindset, it took me a long time. I want to be really honest, Jim. It took me a long time to have that mindset. It took me a long time to be able to say those words authentically, but that's okay. Like, I have no secrets about it, but now when I have chats with my employees, it's really authentic, because I can tell them, like, let me tell you about the time I didn't do this. Let me tell you this doozy that I made in 2010.
Yeah. I love that you're so open and transparent with them. It speaks volumes, not only to your character, but all the challenges that you've overcome to get where you are today. Because if you're okay with who you are right now and you're talking openly about this, obviously there's some, in my opinion, some iterations of James Sinclair that needed to try to get to where you are right now, just to be able to smile about this and feel good sharing the story.
And don't look in the basement.
Yeah, right. The closet. Hey, well, you reminded me of something a couple weeks ago. I got someone on social media posted something to me and said, I would never be where I'm at without you. And I was like, I barely even knew this person.
Right.
But I got kind of emotional. I'm like, what the heck? Now he's working in a job that he completely loves. And he learned from what we shared with him on how to get there. And I thought that was absolutely amazing to have some kind of an impact on the, for someone else, to where now they're doing something they love. They're taking care of their family. They're living their lives. And it feels good to have something like that happen. And who knows what happens in the future, but I bet if he finds somebody that's looking for a position, he's going to say, you got to go over and talk to Jamie.
I guarantee you, if someone walked by and he overheard a conversation in the bar about someone saying, I'm looking for an assistant, the issue is, will he tap a random person on the shoulder and be like, oh my God, I know the guy, phone this guy? And the answer is probably yes. It's what people do when you're not looking, and that's what you're looking for. But with no expectations. It's not if I'm good, they're going to refer business. It's if I'm good, I'm going to feel good. And I think people forget that. And, I think my journey has been a little bit, at the beginning, being the CEO, and, I've been through a few companies that when I started this company, I already knew I'm not Zeus. I don't have to be all powerful, all knowing, all everything. I don't have to have the solution to every problem, and I don't have to have solutions without problems. So when we started this 4.5 years ago, again, I had come in on the backs of some good and some bad and some learnings, and it changes everything. It makes me sleep better at night. So people say, look, I've got to make my employees sleep better at night, take iota of stress. One iota of stress I'm taken from is I don't have to know the answer to everything. It's not expected of me. And when you can get out of your own way, game changer.
It is a game changer. I love that. And kudos to you for taking yourself out of your own way. I think it's okay for us as business leaders to make ourselves replaceable. And oftentimes leaders of organizations are very scared of presenting any kind of a replacement program or anything like that. But I think that's the best way to do it.
Lets you go on vacation. You can't go on vacation if you have a militia controlled company, so the expectation is when you go on vacation, if you've done a good job, the company will operate perfectly without you. That's the quality. So it's your absence isn't noticed, is actually the reflection. I'm not talking about innovation and drive and says, I'm just talking in terms of operational. The company still moves and produces beans when you're not standing there looking at every single bean. And, I took my first vacation after I think my second year for like a week and a half. And I spent the first 3 days being like, why is no one bothering me? But all my employees had made a thing. Don't contact him unless we're burning down. And, and then I remember I joined like a call of like, hey, how's everyone doing? And everyone was like, get off. Like, why are you here? And it was such a good feeling because I turned everything off for the first time in my life. Because I trusted the system and I trusted the people because I'd empowered them and I'd made those personal changes to not be lobbed and forced into every conversation, even when I'm not needed.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah. One of the favorite things, and I'm writing a book right now, and I put this story, I go into a little bit more detail, but my assistant Raina, when my mom was having her challenges, she said, Jamie, go take care of your mom. We got your back. And I was off 6 or 7 weeks dealing with my mom and came back to a company that was as stronger, and I think stronger than when I left. It was fantastic. Yeah.
What an amazing sentence to be able to say publicly. My company got stronger when I walked out the door. Like that takes a lot of, I imagine that it takes a few years and war stories to be able to say that and be proud of that, because you should be. That's an amazing milestone that so many business owners can't even fathom the concept of. And so I think it's important to stop for a second and talk about what you just said. You left your company for 7 weeks to deal with a personal issue and you came back to a better, stronger company. Kudos. Like that's the dream for every owner out there. That's my dream. So like, I just want to recognize like small golf clap.
Thank you. Yeah. I appreciate it. Well, and I think the team really stepped up. I think that's what it is, because we're taking care of them. Just like you say, I think you take care of them. If they have an exit plan, I'm switching that question you asked. What is the next job you're going to take after this one is now going into all of our interview processes. That's genuinely gold. So thank you for sharing that. We're actually past the time here. I want to be respectful of your time. So how do people reach out to you if they want to learn more?
So James Sinclair, Enterprise Alumni, you can search. There's no other company on earth called Enterprise Alumni. There's a few James Sinclairs out there in the world. LinkedIn, Twitter, email. I love to hear feedback. I love to hear war stories. I love to hear where people think my opinion was wrong. I love to hear other people that might have a new friend on the top of their head. I really do enjoy conversation. Like this conversation has been great for me, Jamie, because, I got to hear stories about what you're doing and how you're thinking and how you are talking about it. Like, I love that phrase. I walked out the business and my employees said, we got you. And I came back 7 weeks to a stronger business. Like that is, I hope that is the opening to your book, because that is the holy grail. And so I've loved this so much.
Thank you, James. And speaking of books, the Alumni Advantage, alumniadvantagebook.com. How's that going?
Oh, awful. Amazing. Awful. Amazing. Awful. So I've was told is at some point you're going to hate your book. So I've done all the writings. I'm now doing the reading and the editing. And a friend of mine sent me an email. So just so you know, at some point you're going to hate your book. And that's perfectly normal. It means you're near the end. I just hit that actually yesterday, where I was like, I hate everything. I want to change everything. It's amazing. It's coming out. We think it's coming out about 3 months. I'm really the blocker on that one of going through it and wanting to change everything. But it's really for companies that just want to understand what it takes to actually build an alumni program, as in a program that's formally organized for when people leave. And it doesn't need to use software. It doesn't need to use Enterprise Alumni. You could do it on LinkedIn, Facebook, WhatsApp. You could literally do it with paper. It's nothing more. I want to just end with one amazing story one of our big customers does is when someone leaves their team, 2 weeks later, she sends a gift basket of cookies to their new job, to the new person that left, and said, hey, your old team misses you. We hope you're doing amazing. If you ever need anything, we're here for you. Can you imagine if 10 days into your new job, your old employer sent you cookies? It would change everything. Everything. And I just wanted to mention that because it happened recently and I was like, oh my God, like I'm thinking about everything wrong over here.
there's Lee, there's so many things you have to think of when running a company or when working in an organization. And this is one more that I think should definitely be part of the game plan. When I first started this company, I was thinking of my exit strategy. What's my exit strategy? What is that going to look like? How long? What do I need to do? And everything from A to Z, something happens throughout the journey. And there's a journey, like you said, it could be 3 years, 4 years, very unlikely it's going to be 20, 30, 40 years anymore. But right. What happens when? And what's the best way that you can help them through what is going to be a stressful and challenging time? I don't care, because you always think grass is greener. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but that's a challenge, right? A little nerve-wracking, new environment, something new. And kudos to them for doing that and having the wherewithal to do that. And so, sending out cookies 10 days after your new gigs, that's a pretty cool thing.
I was like, calm down. I literally looked at it. I was like, please calm down. Like, don't tell anyone that story ever again, please. I'm just not with it. But what an amazing, that is someone who understands people. And I would tell you, Jimmy, it's not something to add to your action plan. It's exactly what you've been. Be your authentic self the whole way through. That's it. Be your authentic self the whole way through. And you don't need an alumni plan. You're just continuing to be your authentic self, whatever that might mean. And I think that's the change that people need to think about. If you're a good employer, then by default, you'll support them throughout their career. You're proud when 20 years later, they are doing something incredible because they came out of you. And so that would be my leaving point is it doesn't need to be software. When people walk out your company, recognize they're going to the next stage, and you can either be a fan or you can be angry and be negative and do nothing. But there's no scenario where that doesn't come back to haunt you.
Yep. That's so true. Yep. I'd rather leave being friends than enemies. That's for sure.
For sure. Amazing.
Well, anything else before we wrap?
Jamie, this has been awesome. I can't wait to phone and find out how you're going to take some bottleneck out of my life.
Well, thank you so much, James. Can you hold on one quick second and I'll go ahead and wrap up?
Yeah, of course, please.
Fantastic. So I've been talking with James Sinclair, and he can hear everything I'm saying because he's waiting in the green room right now for me to wrap up. But I just want to say I highly encourage you to go and reach out to James Sinclair. He's the CEO of EnterpriseAlumni. Here's his email, j@enterprisealumni.com. Send him an email. You can visit his website by going to enterprisealumni.com. You can also go check out his book, The Alumni Advantage, by going to alumniadvantagebook.com. Follow him on Twitter and follow him on LinkedIn. Follow the Alumni on LinkedIn. Go check it out and have your own conversation with him. And, he's fantastic, as you can tell. So highly encourage you reaching out to him and find out what you can do to put some kind of a program together for your organization so you can maintain that relationship. Perhaps things don't work out on the other end. Can they come back? Do you have a way for them to do that? Not to alienate them. But not only that, and even if they don't come back, you still have a relationship. Somewhere down the road, your paths may cross. And ultimately, it's how you feel. Do you feel good about the decisions that you make? So I highly recommend checking out James Sinclair. I'll go ahead and post his email one more time, j@enterprisealumni.com. So go check it out. A couple house cleaning things. Go check out Bottleneck TV. It's Bottleneck Television here, live with Bottleneck. It's over 100 episodes of past episodes. So this is live right now. However, you're watching this at a time where it's not live. You can just go to bottleneck.online/BTV, and you'll see hundreds of episodes, even one including the custom shoes that we got from Nike. Completely random, but it's there. And then also writing a book, just like James is doing, Quit Repeating Yourself, coming out in September. And as he said, that revisions process is painful. It's terrible. I even told my own editor, I said, do you have some extra coffee? Because I don't want you to fall asleep reading this book. So coming soon is Michael Stedman. And let me take this right here. Michael Stedman, unbelievable guy. We're going to be talking about managing a nonprofit and a for-profit venture. He's the founder of Ironbound Media. We're going to be talking this Thursday, May 13th, 2021 at 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern. A fantastic fella. Former military veteran, and he's just taken this world by storm since leaving the military. So that'll be a lot of fun there. I just want to remind you one last thing before we wrap. create your own ripple. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We'll talk to you soon.